Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome to the Joe and Charlie Big Book Workshop. We as leaders do not consider ourselves to be the gurus of the Big Book of AA, or we do not consider ourselves to be experts in anything at all. For those who care to, please join me in a moment of silence to remind us of why we are still here, and for the alcoholic who still suffers. God, let me set aside everything I think I know about you, AA, myself, and my disease, for an open mind and a new experience. Let me be honest and thorough. Amen. For the first couple of weeks, we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves to one another. And obviously, we're not going to do that because I'm recording by myself again. So I'm Jessica, I'm an alcoholic. The purpose of this workshop is to experience the recovery process as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, either for the first time or again, so that we may better carry out and understand our primary purpose, which is to stay sober and carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic. We are here to talk about recovery only and go through the 12-step process as outlined in the Big Book of AA. This is not an emotional or intellectual exercise. This is a spiritual exercise so that we can all recover and experience the recovery process as we read it together. It is recommended that anything you hear here that cannot be reconciled in the Big Book 12 and 12 or AA-approved literature simply be ignored. All right, so last week, just as a refresher, we finished up week 15. We are into action. So we are going to go on to steps 8 and 9 today. If we do have time, we'll just roll it right into week 17, which is step 10. And then that's all just going to depend on how much time we have. And then after that, there's only two more sessions. We will follow up with, it looks like here, steps 11 and 12. Awesome. Okay, so to start out, we are on into action, steps 8 and 9. We're going to read page 76 in our Big Book on paragraph 3, right where we left off. So now we need more action, with which out we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at the steps 8 and 9. We have listed all persons we have harmed to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go with our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris, which has accumulated out of the effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't had the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember that it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Okay. If you hear a weird noise in the background, that is my puppy playing with something that she probably shouldn't be. She's just pawing her little screen door there. Okay. So, I think we have, if we are in our books here, we are on page 158. I think we've really laid out the groundwork in recovery. We have gone through the steps 1, 2, and 3. In step 1, we saw the problem. In step 2, we found the solution to our problem. And step 3, we made a decision. That decision was vital. That decision was to turn our will in our lives over to the care of God as we understood him based on the steps 1, 2, and 3. Once we made this decision, which was the first time that we were in a correct relationship with God in our lives, thus we actually laid the spiritual foundation on which we are going to build our lives. So we know that human life emanates from the inside out and that there is a design for living. Design, I said that really weird. There's a design to everything on the face of this earth, and there is a design to our lives. The Big Book talks about this throughout and gives us a design for living that really works. We saw as a result from steps 1 and 2 that in steps 3, we made the decision. When we made that decision for the first time, we were in a correct relationship with God in our lives. That's the spiritual foundation. Once we've laid that foundation, we went on to work on steps 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we deal with ourselves. We learned that we're a product of our minds, not our bodies. So that in steps 4, 5, 6, and 7, we worked on our mind. Woo! Now we're going to go into the third dimension of life, our relationship with others. This is a major part of human life. Now we got to go into that area and deal with it. So it's the final work that we're going to do. And it does not deal with us physically, but it deals with us sociologically. We are going to talk about our relationship and everything else in the world that's physical. Other people, our jobs, and anything else. Everything in life will fit into one of these areas. So this is a design for life. So we have the 3 dimensions of life, steps 1 through 9. So we have spiritual in the center. That's God, steps 1, 2, and 3. Then we have mental, which is a circle around that, which is steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we have steps 8 and 9, which is the physical, social. And if you have a book, I don't know if you can see that, but see, there's God, mental, and the physical and social. So we say that alcoholism is an inside job. So we started to work on the inside and we are working our way out. Give me 1 second here. I have something I gotta do here real quick. Okay. So we say that alcoholism is an inside job. So we started on the inside and we're working our way out. We are headed into the third dimension, which is our relationship with other people. Steps 8 and 9. And we have guilt and fear, which will cut us from the sunlight of the spirits. Steps 1, 2, and 3. And if that happens, we're going to lose our work we started. You know, half measures availed us nothing. We agreed to go all the way so we don't lose what we have done. Steps 8 and 9 are talking about the third dimension of life. And we know all about that. So, in order for us to complete the job and completely get rid of these things in our mind that block us from God, it's going to be necessary to do something about that fear, guilt, remorse associated with the past. So, we're going to continue on to paragraph 4 on page 76. It says, probably there are still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel different about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. Some people we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. Then it says to flip to page 78, paragraph 1. And that says, in 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise at what we're doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they'll offer us assistance. It should not matter. However, if someone does throw us out of the office, we have made a demonstration on our part. It's water over the dam. Okay, so there's no good way that I can become willing to make amends to at all unless I've really worked out a good step forward, the way the book tells us to. Even then, some have harmed us as badly as we had harmed them, to say to ourselves, by golly, they had it coming, and I don't think I owe them an amends. But we're going to find a few like that are going to be very difficult, and then for us to become willing to make amends to them all so that we can't make amends to any of them, period. Step 8 will block us off entirely from step 9 if we aren't really careful. So my sponsor said, don't let this happen to me. He said, some of these people on these lists, you know them and they know you and you love them and they love you and you would like to get things straightened out with them right now, wouldn't you? And I said, sure, I would. My children were on there and my brother was on there and my mother and my father and some of my friends. I wasn't sure about my wife. She was on there, but I didn't know about her. And he said, I'll tell you what you ought to do. Why don't you get a separate sheet of paper and list and put right now on it? So the people on your men's list is something that you're willing to do with them right now and take their names off of there and put them on that right now column. And then there are some people that you're going to make amends to later. You don't particularly care about it, but you know you're going to do it. Take their names off there and put them on later and then put their names on it. So there are only a few that you aren't sure about and you may not make amends to them. Take their names off of there and put them in a third column and just put them there at the top as maybe. Now, there are going to be ones left on there that you will never make amends to. Take them off and put them in a fourth column that says never. So what I'd like you to do is start making amends to the right nows. By the time you're through with that, you'll be ready to do some of the laters. And then you'll do the laters, and then you'll do some of the maybes, and then you'll probably go through the maybes, and then you'll do some of the numbers. He let me read into this and did not allow me to use the fact that there were some I did not intend to make amends to anybody at all. If you have trouble in that area, you might try this, and it really does work. So there's 4 columns. It's so weird this virtual background cuts this off. My sponsor had me do something similar. We just used a note card with like a little, like a ring through it. So I had one that was labeled right now, later, maybe never. And I'm 16 months sober. And I have not made all of my amends. I've made some initially, but I'm kind of in the now and laters at this point. So this is actually a really good refresher because I just talked to my sponsor about this myself and getting back to making some of these amends. So page 78, paragraph 2. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking, and they usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. So, nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us, arranging the best deal that we can let these people know that we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We have to lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go. We're liable to drink if we're afraid to face them. I also need to take note of that. After we become willing in step 9, it clearly tells us what to do. It tells us what kinds of amends to do. It says make direct amends to such people and tells them when to make the direct amends, except when to do so would injure them or others. The only thing I really need to truly understand is what does it mean by direct amends? And what does it mean by wherever possible? And what does it mean by except when to do so would injure them or others? Well, we start step 9. We are looking, what we're talking about, he said, make direct amends. Making direct amends, we're going to look at them 2 different ways. First, we're going to look at direct as face-to-face. That's the best way to make an amends. If we make our amends face-to-face, there's no doubt about the result. This thing really does work if we're willing to do what the book says. Sometimes it's not easy to do that, though, and the book reminds us that self cannot overcome self, and we may have to ask God to be willing to do these things. So I think we'll find it the benefits far outweigh whatever pain we have in doing it. So paragraph 3 on page 78 says, perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if we are known to the authorities, or we may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account. So, and it also wants us to read paragraph 80, or page 80, paragraph 4. After consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had a place to outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again, and all would be lost anyhow. He attended church for the first time in many years, and after a sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His action met widespread approval, and today is one of the most trusted citizens in his town. That all happened years ago. So, here we are again. We considered other people who will be involved. Talked to them, got their okay before he made his amends. Undoubtedly, I need to make some amends to my wife or husband. In fact, the only thing I can really do is say, look, I know what I did to you and I know what I was, and I really hurt you while I was drinking, and I'm truly sorry about that. But I'm trying to live a decent life now with God's help. I don't intend to do those things anymore. And that's about all I can do with my children too. I tell them that I don't know what I was, or I tell them I know what I was and they know what I was, and I really hurt them and I'm truly sorry about it, but I'm trying to live a different life with God's help, and I'm going to try to be a decent husband and wife, decent father and mother from now on. To some of those, these are just about the amends we can make possibly, so we don't have to go through trying any of them, make them for the rest of our lives. Sometimes we feel so guilty about these things. We keep trying on to make amends forever and go far beyond what probably should in the first place. This requires careful consideration. There will be some amends that we can never make. Maybe we never know where these people are. Maybe they... Whoa. I just lost my spot. I just lost my train of thought. Okay, sometimes we feel so guilty about these things that we should keep on trying to make amends forever. Project in the first place, this requires careful consideration. Sorry, I glanced up at an email and I like totally lost my train of thought there. So page 80, paragraph 5. The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Perhaps they're mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt this in respect alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor. Perhaps he's having a secret and exciting affair with a girl who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what we are going to have to do with the thing about that, a man so involved often feels remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. And then page 83, paragraph 1. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fit the bill at all. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as now see it, being very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that their own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator will show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. So there are some amends that we can never make. Maybe we don't know where these people are. Maybe they're dead. Maybe the case would be that would injure other people. So we have to live with those. But we will not hurt. There is no pain. We know we could do it if we could. If we are willing, this will set us free. If we are willing, even if we can't do it, there is no guilt or remorse or anything bothering us. That's why we're doing all this, so it doesn't bother us. A mistake we see a lot of people make is in our zeal to have everybody like us. It is to expect everyone to forgive us. Sometimes they don't accept our amends, and when they're feeling crushed, and then we tend to want to go back again and again and literally force those people to forgive us. We don't do that. As God's people, we stand on our own 2 feet. We make our amends to the best of our ability. And if they don't want to accept the amends, then we are at peace anyway. There's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is make our amends. So I think there's one person that we owe an amends to as much as anybody, and that's ourselves. I cannot say that I never hurt anybody with my drinking because I hurt everybody who I came in contact with me when I was drinking. But I am positive I hurt myself just as bad as I ever hurt anybody else. And I think the finest amends that I can make is to me and to free myself of the past. The only way I found to do that is by making amends to other people wherever possible. And through making my amends to others, my guilt and remorse and my fears associated with the past have disappeared. So page 83, paragraph 2. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, and we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly about them about spiritual matters. This will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anybody. Now, continuing on page 84, paragraph 1. Oh, I got a lot of highlighting on this one. We did this with my sponsor, a lot of pink. That's the prayers and promises. If you could see that here. Oh, it's cutting it out. You can see the pink. That's the prayers and the promises. So paragraph 1 is, are these extravagant promises? We think not. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Keep on working on step 9, but go on to step 10 was my little notes. These are, that's the end of step 9 there on page 84, paragraph 1. I drew a line between it because that's where step 10 starts below it on the paragraph below. So Joe McHugh in the Big Book comes alive seminar, reads the promises in the following manner as the way alcohol made him fear before it turned against him. And this is what it said. When I drank alcohol, I knew a new freedom and a new happiness. When I drank alcohol, I would not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. When I drank alcohol, I would comprehend the word serenity and I would know peace. When I drank alcohol, no matter how far scaled I had gone, I would see my experience could benefit others. When I drank alcohol, that feelingness of uselessness and self-pity would disappear. When I drank alcohol, I would lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in my fellows. When I drank alcohol, fear of people and economic insecurity would leave me. When I drank alcohol, I intuitively knew how to handle situations which used to baffle us. When I drank alcohol, I suddenly realized that alcohol was doing for me what I could not do for myself. Whoa! I just made like a connection there. I've never seen that read in anything but the Big Book. In the Big Book, it's the promises. I would know a new freedom and a new happiness. I would not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. They don't put when I drank alcohol. wow, that was mind-blowing. My God, no wonder I love to drink. Alcohol did for me many, 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 many years. El that's what alcohol did for me. Alcohol was my friend. And I doubt I could have lived normally in a society growing up with alcohol or with some drugs that did exactly for me what I wanted it to do. One day it turned against me. It began to get me drunk. I'm getting alerts everywhere on my watch, my phone. Very distracting today. It began to get me drunk, and in trouble, it caused me to do the things I did not want to do. From that day on, I spent the rest of my drinking career searching for a way to drink and capture the good feelings. So these are bullet points. Not knowing that I was an alcoholic, not knowing that I had a progressive illness, and not knowing that there was no way to recapture those good feelings. It almost destroyed me and everyone in my life. We feel that our program can benefit others. So we feel, this is that Joe McHugh again. We feel that the benefits of this program can benefit others. How? When we actually work these principles in all of our affairs into our behaviors and everyday thinking, we will become less selfish, more helpful, less self-seeking, more kindly, less intolerant, more understanding, less spiteful, and more loving. By changing, others will benefit. In this way, first and foremost, these steps will benefit others. Joe McHugh. Continuing on. I came to AA and you showed me a big book and 9 steps. I applied them in my life and I found absolute amazement that I got good things from these first 9 steps and that I ever got from alcohol. Now, if I can feel as good from the first 9 steps as I did from drinking alcohol in the beginning, then I can most certainly do not need to take a drink in order to change the way I feel. I think the amazing thing about this is, so far, the first 9 steps have never turned against me. I've never been placed in jail because of the first 9 steps. I've never been drugged into a divorce because of the first 9 steps. I've never vomited from the first 9 steps. You can see that they have given me good, that the alcohol gave me, but none of the bad. So that's why I don't need to drink. Now, if I don't want to receive these promises, sooner or later, my mind is going to start searching for a sense of ease and comfort. It's going to take me right back to the idea that I got to drink to change the way I feel. You see, that's what this is all about. Now, why did we get the promises? We got the promises because we have fit ourselves back into the design for living that God made us to live in the first place. And when we do that, and we're not in conflict of God, we're not in conflict with our fellow man, and we're not in conflict with ourselves, then we can have these promises. So if you notice, every promise in there deals with the mind. None of them deal with the body. Surely if we had these promises, then I'd become a different human being. Surely my personality has changed entirely from what it used to be. Because I've received these promises. And we have effectively recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body at the end of step 9 if we have received these promises. Isn't that great? I did that and I received those promises today. And I realized they make me feel exactly the way alcohol used to make me feel in the beginning. They give me all the good things that alcohol ever gave me. So if I get all the good things in the first 9 steps that alcohol gave me, then I don't have to drink alcohol, excuse me, in order to feel better. So once again, the beautiful thing about the first 9 steps is they really never turn against me like alcohol did. I've never got drunk into a divorce court because of the first 9 steps, and I've never vomited. Damn near did a time or two. This is a miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. Through the first 9 steps, we get all the good things alcohol ever gave us. Therefore, we don't need to drink to change the way we feel. And yet, we receive none of the bad things from the first 9 steps that alcohol gave to us. We have recovered from a seamlessly hopeless state of mind and body by the end of step 9. Now, in my experience, excuse me, there's some amends that you make now, there's some you make later, you might make, and you never might make. Step 9 is a continuing process. So we do finish our 12 steps in addition to like continuing to finish our 9th step. Like I have worked my 12 steps and I still have amends that I have to make. So what I can say is, even though I haven't made all of my amends, and even before I got to step 9, with this change from what we used to be, I started receiving these promises, like they said in the big book. And I can't imagine what it's going to feel like when I get all of my amends done. But, you know, when they say the word recovered, honestly, with this, like that The urge to drink has been lifted. The obsession to drink has been lifted. I don't know how much more recovered you can get by working these steps and getting to this point where it says we have gotten all the good things and the promises without the bad that alcohol gave us, that we no longer need to drink. That is a miracle. That is an absolute miracle. And I don't know how much more recovered you can get. And I don't know if anyone gets a little antsy when I say that. Like, we can always grow in the program. You never arrive at the game in sobriety. You don't finish this and you're done. But what I can say is I have recovered. I am a recovered alcoholic. And like in this new young generation, if I were to go to an AA meeting, I'm honestly, that's part of my character defects. I would love to say, hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Like they used to, back when AA started, because honestly, I have been recovered to a place, from that hopeless state of body and mind. And that is a miracle. But all I have is a daily reprieve. Never forget that. So we have finished week 16, and that only took like 25 minutes. So week 17 is into action, which is step 10. And let me just check 2, 4, 5. I think I'm just gonna wrap this up in here. Let's get this study wrapped up. Let's finish the rest of this. So week 17, chapter 6, into action. We're just moving right along into action. Step 10, page 84, paragraph 2. So this is where step 10 starts. Paragraph 2. Gosh, this anyway, I drew the line between steps 9 and 10 on this page. So this is where step 10 starts. This brought us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and set right to right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living and we cleaned up our past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Now, these are important. These are the directions for the 10th step. This is watch, not wait. And it's not a matter of if, or not a matter of when. It's a matter of when, not if. I wrote that really weird. So these are the directions. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. 1, we continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. By watch, we mean we do not wait, we watch, because it's not a matter of if, it is when these are going to creep up. 2, when these creep up, not if, when, a prayer, we ask God once to remove them. 3, we discuss with somebody immediately. 4, we make direct amends if we have harmed anyone. And 5, we resolutely turn our thoughts to somebody we can help. Love and tolerance of other is our code. Now, I don't know if it's going to go over this, but when I first got into the program, my first sponsor told me to read pages 84 or the bottom of 83, 84 to 88, the into action. And this literally changed my life. Like, I hadn't read the big book. I really, like, I hadn't even got to this part the second time I got sober, honestly. Like, I didn't read the big book. That's why I drank. So there is a part in this that says, where it says love and tolerance of others is our code. That is something I have to make the decision and remind myself every day, which is an action part of the 10 step. And there's a part, I don't know where it says exactly, where it said, thy will be done, not mine. I repeat that to myself on a daily basis. I read that in rehab, and for some reason, that's one of those aha spiritual moments that I had, that it was thy will be done, not mine. That in pages 84 to 88, I read these every morning. Like my sponsor said at the time, I did get something out of this. It's something that I do play in my mind every day. It's when, especially when I get mad, there's like a little birdie that is like, thy will be done, not mine. And I have a choice right there of if I'm going to flip out like I usually do, or if I'm just not going to control every situation of my life. I do feel it is nowhere near the person I used to be. I used to control everything every day, all day long. I can tell you 16 months into this, I can count on one hand a couple of episodes where Jessica has ran the show and it has not gone well, but that is because I read in these pages, thy will be done, not mine. And that has made a huge difference in my life. That little sentence. And if it works for me, hopefully it can work for somebody else. So we read that paragraph. Okay. I think we left off I think as we left the first 9 steps, that it was clear that we were halfway through the stage of our development. And then we were going to enter another plane of consciousness through the growth of the last 3 steps. A lot of times the last 3 steps are called maintenance. And I think that's because the word maintenance is here, and they've tied the term onto them. It gives us a way that we need to stay where we are. But we can look at these last 3 steps as a continuous growth steps that we continue to grow with the rest of our lives. Like I'm saying, we can always grow. We never just end. There's always room for growth. And honestly, sometimes I take steps back, and then I have to go back to the first couple steps and start all over. I mean, seriously. It is linear when we go through them the first time, but once we've done the steps, it's not linear. We will use all of them and you will go back and forth. Well, at least I do. I know I need help in all areas. So as we read the step 9 promises, you'll see that they deal with the mind. None of them deal with the body. So we came here irritable, restless, discontented, filled with shame, fear, guilt, remorse, worry, anger, depression, etc. When we work the steps, we receive the promises. Certainly, we have gone under a change in our personality and we have undergone a spiritual awakening already. Now, if that's true, then what is the purpose of the last 3 steps? Well, people will tell us that the last 3 steps are to maintain our sobriety. And I will agree with that they help us stay sober. But the word maintenance itself is a misnomer. I read that as like misdemeanor. To maintain something means to keep it as is. Oh, okay. A misnomer, to maintain something, to keep it as is. It's a new word for me. Another natural law applies. Nothing in our universe ever stays as is. Like that saying, it is what it is. Well, it doesn't stay that way. So everything in our universe is in a constant state of change. It's either growing or dying. It's progressing or regressing. It's going forward. It's going backward. Not linear. It's like a tree. We're growing and we stop growing and then it starts dying. And then our leaves are the same day. We have to continue to grow. And what these last 3 steps are all about, they're about continuing to grow. Now, the tremendous amount of spiritual growth we have made through the first 9 steps is we've got the promises. But if we just try to maintain this, everyone will eventually start slipping back and we start having trouble with people, then ourselves, and then with God, and then we end up it all drunk over again, okay? So how do I know that? Well, I see it happen in AA over and over and over again, and that's why people like us had a good program to go back to get drunk again, is because we stopped growing. And it's saying, how do I know that? I see it happen in AA over and over again. I saw it happen to myself for over 10 years. I was first introduced in these rooms in 2013. I didn't get sober until 2023. And I drank before that too. So, I mean, we can't stop growing. If you do, you start dying. So let's look at the last 3 steps. It's not just maintenance steps. It's not just to keep us sober, but to see that we have actually continued to grow in our relationship with God, ourselves, and with other human beings. Love that. So last week we talked about the normal 3 dimensions of existence. I can't believe they use the word normal in here. What is normal? Well, the 3 normal dimensions of existence are the dimension of the spirit, which is God, our higher power, our creator, the dimension of the mind, mental thinking and perception, and the dimension of the physical, which is our physical and sociological relationship with the world and everything around it. So we saw that where the first 9 steps has put us back together in these normal 3 dimensions of living. However, twice in the big book, Bill mentions a 4th dimension. I think he says like you're rocketed into the 44th dimension or something. I don't know where that says that, but once in the story and once in the chapter 2, the 4th dimension is a dimension of living far beyond the normal 3. You can't explain it. You can't describe it. You can only feel it. And that's what the last 3 steps do, like they do in another dimension of living. So just for a moment, let's look back on page 8 in the big book. Oh, he's going to reference it here. So we're going to reference here like another dimension of living. Bill says, I was soon to be catapulted in what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. That's where it was. So, in other words, a dimension of living far beyond the normal 3 dimensions. What is chapter is page 8 in? I'm just looking up this because I'm a nerd. Oh, it's in Bill's story. Duh. Okay. So, on page 25, where he talks about the spiritual experience, and again, refers to the 4th dimension of living. End quote, the great fact is this, and nothing less, that we have had a deep and effectual spiritual experience which have revolutionized our whole attitude upon life, toward our fellows, towards our God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and into a way which is indeed miraculous. Now, just before that paragraph says we had found much of heaven and we've been rocketed into a 4th dimension of existence, which we have not even dreamed. From this, we see there's another dimension beyond the other 3. I think we might be the luckiest people in the world because most people realize there is another dimension of living. Even if they do realize it, most of them do not have the tools necessary to get them into that dimension of living. We need to look at the fact that the last 3 steps are most certainly not maintenance steps because, as we said before, to maintain would be to keep as is. And we see that the last 3 steps are growth. Oh my gosh, I love that. I have never actually had that described to me in that way. Maintenance means to maintain, keep the same. We don't want to maintain that. We want to stay sober. So I can understand where they say maintenance. We want to stay sober. But the last 3 steps are not maintenance. They are growth that will put us into another dimension far beyond the promises found on pages 83 to 84. I love that. I'm going to start saying that and telling everybody about that. And I'm going to start sharing about that in meetings because I absolutely love that. You always pick up something new. So now if we could stop the end of step 9 and we could stop those promises on page 83 and 84, wouldn't it be absolutely great for the rest of our lives? But that isn't the case necessarily that we can stay there. The reality is one of 2 things will happen. We're either going to have to continue to grow or beginning to digress back. Oh my gosh. I was just talking to my therapist about that today. God works in mysterious ways. The fact that I was just talking about that, that is amazing. And honestly, I need to do a better job with step 10. Because I don't use a worksheet, honestly. We're gonna get to that. But I do a morning and evening thing. I was just talking about this with my therapist, but yes, we were talking about AA here, but it takes a whole team to keep this alcoholic sober. I got a lot of issues. I need a lot of help. So studying on our textbook, the Big Book of AA, we see that step 10 is the ongoing continuous practice of steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Remember, the steps give us our personality change or growth. We didn't get the change from steps 1, 2, or 3. All the change came through the action steps 4 through 9. So we continue to practice these action steps will bring about continuous growth. And when we take step 5, we see things and then discuss them with other people. And then we learn about ourselves and we ask God to remove these things that we find in step 4, which block us, and they will become less and less. So then as we make amends to other people, our relationships with other people will grow and then we'll get better. So in the practice of these action steps, we will not remain the same. We have to grow into the 4th dimension. Step 4 has prepared us for step 10. And that's why we said if we didn't do a good step 4, we don't learn the step 4 process, and we can't do a good 10 step. If we don't know these things about ourselves, how can we change? We must be able to grow. So what we're really doing is these action steps that gives us all the growth in the first place, and we're practicing them over and over and over again on a daily basis for the rest of our lives. Yay! Our growth will continue into another dimension of existence that we never even dreamed of. And there's no way you can describe it. The only way to know is to experience it. And that's why we share our experience and strength and hope, because if it can happen for me and other people, it can happen for you if you're watching this. Wait until the miracle happens. Working step 10 is definitely going to put you into another dimension of living. So we're going to read page 84, paragraph 3. I love reading these. And as we have ceased fighting anyone and anything, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned, and we will seldomly be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil like a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we'll find that this has happened automatically, and we'll see our new attitude upon liquor is given us with any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. And that is the miracle of it. That is a 10-step promise. We are not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected, and we haven't even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor we are afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we stay in a fit spiritual condition, being spiritually fit. So we are doing steps 10, 11, and 12 and day out. These are just my little notes. We are continuing growth with walking, meditation, and prayer. Our promises. Oh, I hope we get into this too. Prayer is talking. Meditation is listening. So in step 10, try to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. Prayer is when we are talking to God, and meditation is when we're listening or to our higher power or whatever you so choose. So now we're going to continue on page 85, the end of the paragraph. Right here. So the last paragraph on page 85, I drew a line because this is the line between steps 10 and 11. And it says, step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. I literally just got that mixed up. Step 10 and 11. We're doing it both together. I just got jumbled with what I just said. But yeah, step 11. We shouldn't be shy in this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe that we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Wait 1 second here. So the reason I got like confused there for step 10, 11, I feel like I do them both like every day. Like I'll like go through like my step 10 and then like seek prayer and meditation when I reflect on like my crappy day or if I've been shitty. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I combine. They just go hand in hand for me. So everyone talks about the promises on page 83 and 84, but very few talk about the promises on pages 84 and 85. There are 12 promises after the 9th step and 12 more after the 10th step. There are promises we are really looking for when we came to the program. So we cease fighting anyone and everything, even alcohol, and for this time, sanity will have returned. Remember, we said in step 2, we came to believe that a higher power greater than ourselves would restore us to sanity. Remember that insanity didn't mean that we were crazy. We were insane in one area. When it came to alcohol, we were insane to take that first drink. So let's look at how we see alcohol now. Remember that little piece was missing? It's going to come home now to us. We've got it. So this is the real double miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. Back on page 45, it said the main object or purpose of this book is to enable us to find a power greater than ourselves, which will solve our problem. It says it doesn't maybe will solve our, it says it will solve our problem. We emphasize that. And it doesn't say which will help solve our problem or enable us to solve. It says which will solve our problem. Somewhere between pages 45 and 85, I woke up one morning and said, there has to be something strange in my life today. And I asked myself, how long has it been since I wanted to drink? And you know what? I couldn't remember. The obsession had been lifted. So somewhere between pages 84 and 85, God reached my hand and he plucked out, and the obsession to drink alcohol was gone, and it never returned since then. God replaced the obsession to drink with the obsession to stay sober. I love how that was just put. Ooh, it got me goosebumps. Yes, he has. He's done it for me. This obsession is a good one. It will make me see the truth and that the idea will be so strong, it will overcome the idea to drink. That is definitely a promise. Because it's worked for me. It's done it for me. And I don't know when it happened. Just like they're saying here, just like the last time you thought about actually having a drink. I don't remember the last time I actually thought about it. It was probably, honestly, I think I was like 6 months sober and the idea popped in, but I hadn't finished my steps yet. I hadn't finished my 4th step. But yeah, my obsession, like just to interject like an analogy, and I was thinking about this when I was watering my flowers today. I have a beautiful orchid and one flower just grew like 2 days ago, and it's growing towards the sun. And it hasn't had a flower, it's been dormant for months. And so I was just thinking about that. Like it was like a beautiful thought that I had this morning. I was like, wow, the flower grows towards the sun. Once I watered and nurtured it, it's growing and it's going to the sun and it's beautiful. It's not growing towards the dirt. It's not wilting and dying. Once it fed and nurtured it, it's growing and it's growing to the sun and it's huge. And it's kind of like if our sobriety is like a flower, as cliche as this sounds, I was like thinking that this morning. I was like, if my sobriety is a flower, just like this orchid, the more I water it, the more I grow, the more it's going to grow to the sun. And the less I water it and nurture it, the more it's going to wilt and go back to the dirt. You know, it says it's either we grow or we digress. And like the more that I'm obsessed with meetings and getting a sponsor and like doing all these right things, the bad is still there. Like, you know, there's still things, but instead of focusing on that problem and focusing on the growth, it grows more. And it's like the more I think about like before I worked this out and stuff, the more I thought about how shitty the situation. I was like, oh fuck, I'm an alcoholic, you know. It's like the more that festers and like the more you digress. If that helps paint a picture of what I kind of feel like. So God did for me what I could not do for myself. I believe this is the real miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. So on page 85, paragraph 1. So this is highlighted in yellow, so this is important. It is easy to let up on a spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. You know what? I'm going to look up the word laurel because just to give the proper definition, it comes up so much in meetings, and I honestly don't know a great definition off the top of my head. We rest on our laurels. So bestow an award or praise on recognition of an achievement. We rest on our laurels. Or it can be an aromatic evergreen shrub. I highly doubt we're resting on our shrubs. So yeah. So we're resting on like our achievements, basically, is how I understand that. I hear it all the time, but like I'll like look up these things and forget them too. It's a lot. So it's easy to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest upon our laurels, so our successes, and maybe like get comfortable. So we're heading for trouble if we do, because alcohol is a subtle foe. We are not cured. All we have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance, hashtag growth, of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day which we must, use the word must there, and I circled it, carry on the vision of God's will into our activities. And this is the 10th step prayer. How can I best serve thee? Thy will be done, not mine. Oh, no wonder I quote it every day. It's the 10th step prayer. I'm such a ding dong. Okay, so these are the thoughts which must, circle it again, go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along the line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. And I put proper use of the will, and I just wrote /mind, our will, our mind. But yes, the 10th step prayer. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. My favorite. So we're talking here in this paragraph about the sixth sense of direction. Where did I leave off? No. In the paragraph, we see the word maintenance, and it's done only on a one-a-day basis. You can spend millions of dollars building where we are at, but we can only maintain it one day at a time. But sooner or later, it's going to shut down on you anyhow. The rest of this paragraph shows us how to properly use of the word will. It doesn't say anything about saying to God, God, where shall I work? Or God, who ought to I be marrying? God, show me. It says, how can I best serve thee? Thy will be done, not mine. When the obsession to drink is entirely removed and we have received these promises for the first time in our life, we're in a position where we can really serve God and our fellow man. And unless we are willing to do so, chances are we are going to end up losing what we have. That scares the absolute shit out of me. I love the idea of exercising our willpower along the line we wish. In step 3, we made the decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood him. In steps 4 through 10, we removed enough self-will that our mind became pretty normal and straightened up. I hate that they're using the word normal. What is normal? So now we can use our will properly, and they have given us our will back at the end of step 10. But what I'd like you to notice is the perfect sequence of the big book, and they give us our will back on page 85, and they restored our sanity back on page 84. We would be in a hell of a shape if we had gotten our will back before our sanity back. Oh, Lord. Yeah, that would not be good. So page 85, paragraph 2. We are almost done, so bear with me here. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all-knowing edge and power. This is a prayer promise. It's highlighted in pink. We have carefully followed directions, and we've begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital, necessary for life, sixth sense. So we are talking here about the sixth sense of direction. Most of you and I know that we learn from our normal five senses for direction. For instance, everything I know to see on a conscious level, I learn through hearing, seeing, tasting, feeling, or touching. Feeling and touching is the same. But anyway, that's the only way we human beings have a learning of anything. We gather information from the five senses, and they didn't put smell. They made a boo-boo. There's a lot of boo-boos in this book, honestly. I'm such a know-it-all alcoholic. We gather information from those five senses, and that the information then lodges in our mind at a conscious level, and then we use that information to run our lives. So for those of us who have learned from just those five senses and ran our lives on that information, we almost destroyed ourselves. Yes. If God dwells within all human beings, and I'm convinced He does, and if God has all knowledge and all power, then I'm convinced He does, and that means that you and I have within ourselves all the knowledge, all the power that we could ever possibly need to solve any problem that we could ever have, if we could just tap into that power. There's another sense of direction that's somewhere inside ourselves that we could tap into that, then we'll have another sense of direction, referred to as the sixth sense, which is all knowledge and all power. Human beings have known forever that there's a way through prayer and meditation. Most of us alcoholics have problems with prayer and meditation. So even though I was raised in a church, excuse me, when it came to AA, I knew very little about prayer and nothing about meditation. I concur. Remember, we said before, prayer is talking and meditation is more listening. I would agree with that. I had two prayers. One was, now I lay me down to sleep, and the other was, God, get me out of this damn mess, and I swear I'll never do it again. Ooh, favorite prayer there. Back at active drinking. So the only other prayer I knew was, God, if you do this, I'll do that. Another one of my prayers. I always try to bargain with God, and today I realize that God has the controls and doesn't need to bargain with me at all. So let's see if we can find a way to tap into that unsuspected inner resource of strength and see if we continue our spiritual growth through step 11 next. So this brings us to the homework assignment there, if you have the big book or the workbook. Then on the next page, it has a few more things to go over. So it says step 11 is the culmination of all of the previous steps that we had, or wait, did I jump into something here? Hold on. Oh, they just didn't put a title at the top of that. Yeah, it goes step 10. Okay, so that's just really weird how the book does this. Okay, so this will be for next week. That's week 18. And then we have one more week after that, which is week 19 of working with others. This book just gets a little discombobulated. But I love that we are going through steps. I'm really excited to go through step 11. But just give me a minute here to gather my thoughts. Okay. So okay. So yeah, to wrap up step 10, like I said before, step 10 is we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And then next week when we discussed step 11, which is we saw through prayer meditation to improve our conscious with contact with God as we understood him, praying only for his will and the power to carry that out. So kind of, they say our maintenance, or our growth now, that we do, it says once a day, like we can retire at night and think of where we've wronged people. A lot of people have like worksheets and get all into that. I think I might have one. I honestly haven't even looked at it ever. How I've taken it is, like my step 4, I've done 2 really deep 4 steps. The second one very thorough. When I think about how I've, my resentments and stuff through the day, or if I'm mad at somebody, there's just some of this like ingrained thing that I do just as I like walk my dog, or like, when you just think and talk to yourself and reflecting, and it's like, I'll immediately be like, I don't like this girl. What is she doing? I don't like this, and I'm like immediately thinking of what's their side. Why do you, think of their feelings? And then like, what's my part? And usually it's my fault. And sometimes I need to say some apologies. And sometimes I don't even have to wait till the end of the day. Like I'll know it right away. It's like honestly doing like a mini 4 step within the 10th step of, continue to take that personal inventory. And we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Like I'll get all, whatever with anybody and say something. And honestly, like I'll immediately like, text my mom back or something like, you know what, I'm sorry, I am out of line. Immediately just nipping these things in the butt because we like start to recognize them. And it just makes me feel better too, because I used to just act like that, just crazy, say whatever I wanted, disregarded everybody's feelings, never apologized. And I would know I was wrong a lot of times. And like, you just carry on that ick and that guilt all day, and, can progress and progress, especially if you live with somebody like a partner. I used to live like that in relationships, but I'm slowly learning that like I am out of line a lot, most of the time. I'm wrong a lot. And if I don't notice it right away, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really sorry. Like, let me work on or stop doing those things. But sometimes I don't notice them and they creep up, and it'll be like a resentment, and I'll just be like, and then all of a sudden I'll get really upset, and then I'll realize it at the end of the night, or maybe I don't. And that's when I get into trouble, and that's when I start getting that ick, and when I start, that pride comes in too, because I'm a very prideful person, and what everyone else thinks of me, or that self-esteem, like I need to be the how, the I need to be in control kind of thing comes back in, and that is not good for me. And I don't feel good, and my relationships are complete crap when I do that now. And I was just talking with my therapist today about that, how these old things will slip in if we don't review them. And I notice when I don't, because then I have to schedule therapy twice a month to talk about this more in depth, because, our sponsors are not our therapists. They're here to teach us how to stay sober and go through the steps. I need extra help talking about certain things sometimes. So I'm not here condoning therapy or knocking it, whatever. Or talking to somebody in the program. But I've noticed, and what I was talking with him today is that there's some of these old ways that have crept in. I didn't know where they came from, and exploded about 2 weeks ago over something so stupid that I'm trying to control the whole situation. And I was just like, I didn't know I was capable of still doing that. And it's something because I wasn't taking a thorough inventory at the end of the night, and I wasn't doing a thorough 10th step. And it's stuff like that, I guess, happens to show that like we never arrive. We must continue this maintenance or the spiritual growth, because I thought it was good. I didn't have an explosive episode in a long time, and I did. So we're not good. You're never good. It never goes away. We have a daily reprieve, and it's contingent on our spiritual maintenance, our spiritual growth, to make sure that we keep progressing Otherwise, we digress or regress, and that's what I did. So enough of my rant. We are on the top of the hour here. So next week we will start with our step 11, and I am so excited to go through that. And then we'll be done with our beautiful study in 2 weeks. So thank you for letting me share